Raymond didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. All he did was make one quiet phone call, and that changed everything. After a long day on the construction site, Raymond Granger was beyond exhausted. The smell of asphalt and sawdust still clung to his hands, and dried mud covered his boots. The only thing on his mind as he drove home was a hot shower and the pot roast his wife Latoya had promised. His truck turned into the familiar, winding the road that led to his gated neighborhood in League City, Texas. That's when he saw the police cruisers, 2 of them, parked sideways across his driveway like they were guarding a crime scene. No lights, no sirens, just 2 idling engines and a wall of suspicion. He slowed the truck, frowning. At first he thought they might be there for someone else, maybe a neighbor. But when one of the officers stepped forward and raised a hand, he knew it was about him. "Stay in the vehicle, sir," the officer said. Raymond rolled down his window calmly and pointed to the black iron gate behind them. "I live here. I'm just trying to get home." "You live here?" the officer asked flatly. Raymond nodded. "Yes, I built this house." The second officer stepped out, taller, buzz cut, hand resting near his belt. Raymond noticed the badge. "Sergeant Rourke." The first cop looked younger. His tag said Delaney. "We got a report of a possible break-in," Rourke said, his eyes sweeping Raymond up and down. Raymond slowly reached into his chest pocket and pulled out his ID. "Not a problem. Here you go. This address is right behind that gate. Granger Construction. That's me. You can look it up." Rourke inspected the license. Delaney glanced up at the security camera mounted above the gate, then down at the ID again. Like he was still uncertain. Raymond tapped the side of his truck lightly. "You can check the mailbox, the intercom, the plaque with my name. It's all right there." Before either officer could respond, the front door creaked open. A figure stepped onto the porch. Latoya. She waved from the doorway, her voice cutting through the silence. "Ray, what's going on?" Behind her, their teenage daughter Marissa stepped outside barefoot, phone in hand. Latoya, still in her scrubs from work, looked straight at the officers. "That's my husband. If you've got a problem, talk to me." The air shifted. Rourke handed back the ID. "We were just responding to a call, ma'am, doing our job." By blocking his own driveway, Latoya shot back, no response. The officers turned, walked back to their cruisers, and drove away without another word. Raymond entered the gate code. The iron doors creaked open. He drove through slowly, saying nothing. Neither did Latoya. Marissa just tapped her phone silently. He parked outside the garage but didn't shut off the engine. Latoya leaned into the window. "You all right, Raymond?" Exhaled hard. "Not sure." Inside, he peeled off his boots and sat silently by the door. The kitchen smelled of garlic bread and roast, but he had no appetite. Marissa walked in, holding her phone. "I recorded everything. From the moment they stepped out." Raymond nodded. "We'll talk about it in the morning." But that night, sleep never came. The thought kept circling in his mind. This could happen again. In front of the house he designed, the one he built with his own 2 hands, and still he had to prove he belonged. He thought the incident was over. It wasn't. By sunrise, Raymond was already in the kitchen with coffee in hand, watching the security footage again. Volume turned up this time. No raised voices, no threats. Just him, being calm, respectful, and still treated like an outsider. Latoya came in, tied her hair back, and started making eggs. "So what are you going to do?" "I'm calling that damn patrol company first thing." He sipped his coffee, jaw tense. They didn't check the cameras, just saw a black man in work clothes and assumed the worst. Marissa joined them, grabbing a granola bar. "You gonna post the video?" Raymond was quiet for a moment. "Not yet. We're keeping it though," Latoya said. "Damn right we are." At exactly 8 a.m., Raymond called the patrol firm, the same one hired by their HOA to keep the neighborhood safe. "This is Raymond Granger from Shoreview Estates. I need to speak to whoever's in charge." A man named Ben Lunsford picked up. "Mr. Granger, I was just about to call you. You had officers block my driveway with their hands on their guns." Raymond cut in. "Want to explain how that happens without checking a single camera?" There was a pause. Then Lunsford replied, "One of our team saw someone near the gate they didn't recognize and called it in." "You mean me, the homeowner?" "Yes, sir. Our patrol didn't recognize you because he didn't bother to check the records." Raymond said he saw a black man in work clothes and jumped to conclusions. "We're reviewing procedures. This isn't how we want our relationship with the community." "There is no relationship," Raymond said. "Not anymore. You're terminating the contract." "I already have." He hung up. Latoya, now sitting at the table with half-eaten eggs, looked up. "That it? No? Now I'm calling the HOA." Raymond pulled up the HOA documents, made a few more calls, and had a tense but brief talk with a board member named Greg, who seemed more concerned with the community's image than Raymond's rights. But Raymond made it clear, not one more cent would go to any company that treated him like a criminal. By noon, the story had spread. Latoya's friend texted, "Just saw the video on the neighborhood Facebook. That was you." Then a coworker messaged, "Man, that clip is blowing up. You kept it together better than I would have." Raymond turned to Marissa. "Did you post it?" She shook her head. "No, but I sent it to Naya." "Maybe she did. Your friend with the TikTok? Marissa said. She's got like 12,000 followers. Raymond gave a short, dry laugh, double quotes, well, Raymond wasn't angry. Not exactly. A part of him was even relieved the video had surfaced. The other part, though, felt tight with unease. Because once the internet got hold of something, it stopped being just a video. It turned into a spark. And sparks don't choose what they ignite. He thought maybe the noise would die down. But by early evening, everything changed. The comments were already stacking up too fast to read. In under a day, the clip had been reposted across platforms. Cropped, edited, even watermarked. Marissa's friend had added a biting caption. Man blocked from his own house. Guess why? That was all it needed. People were outraged. Some tried to identify the neighborhood. Others debated if it was staged. A few insisted there had to be more to the story. Raymond sat on the couch, scrolling, a knot forming in his chest. Latoya stood behind him, arms crossed, reading over his shoulder. Some of these people, she muttered. They don't know you, but they're still writing your whole life story. I'm used to that, Raymond said quietly. People see what they want to see. It's easier than changing their minds. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps at the front door. Raymond rose slowly. You expecting anyone? Latoya shook. Her head. Marissa peeked around the corner. When he opened the door, a woman stood there, maybe late 60s, with a clear plastic container clutched in her hands. Peach, cobbler. Her gray hair was pinned neatly at the nape of her neck, and her cardigan looked freshly pressed. There was a tired honesty in her eyes. Raymond, she said, could I have a moment? He knew her face. Margie lived 3 doors down, always smiled from her garden, but never said more than hello. Sure, he said cautiously. Stepping back, she entered slowly, as if the floor might crumble under her. I brought this, she said, lifting the container slightly. Still warm. Appreciate it, Latoya replied from the living room, her voice cool. I'm Margie Klein, the woman added. I live on the corner. I saw the video. Raymond said nothing, just nodded. Margie single quotes, as gaze dropped to the cobbler. I need to say something. I was the one who called the patrol. Latoya stiffened on the couch. I saw someone near your gate. From the kitchen window, I didn't recognize you at first. It was getting dark. You were wearing work clothes, Raymond asked, flatly. Yes. I wasn't sure it was you. I've lived here 6 years, he said. Been to HOA meetings. I've waved at you and your husband more times than I can count. And you didn't recognize me. I panicked, she said, flustered. I'm not proud of it. Marissa stepped into the room now, arms folded. You panicked because he's black. Margie's lips trembled. I don't want to believe that's what it was, but maybe, deep down, maybe it was. And I'm sorry. I needed to come here and say it out loud. The room was still. The hum of the refrigerator sounded like thunder. Raymond kept his voice level. I didn't ask you to come, but thank you for being honest. Margie placed the cobbler on the counter, her hands unsteady. I really am sorry. Then, quietly, she let herself out, leaving the door open just a sliver behind her. Raymond stared after her. Latoya came to his side. You okay? He shook his head. I don't know. That's the second person in 2 days trying to explain why they saw me as a problem. He looked at the cobbler, then gently pushed it aside. That night, the video hit 500,000 views. A local reporter left a voicemail. Then a national news outlet reached out for a statement. The requests were piling up, but Raymond didn't move. He sat at the table, while Latoya scrolled her phone. Are you going to speak up? She asked. I don't know, he said. Feels like no matter what I say, people will twist it. But if you say nothing, she replied, they'll twist that too. Raymond glanced at the window. Silence was no longer a shield. Not after what showed up the next morning. A thick unmarked envelope jammed into the mailbox, no return. Address just his name written in uneven black ink. Inside was a printed screenshot from the video, his face circled in red. Across the bottom, in jagged marker, don't forget whose neighborhood this is. He stood in the driveway, gravel crunching. Under his boots, the letter trembling slightly in his hands. He didn't rip it, didn't crumple it, just folded it neatly, once, and turned toward the house. Nothing looked out of place. A jogger passed by. A white SUV rounded the corner. Normal, but nothing felt normal. Inside, Latoya was wiping down the counters. Marissa upstairs getting ready for school. Raymond placed the envelope on the table like it was radioactive. Latoya looked over. What's that? He slid it across. She read the note and froze. You think that came from the patrol company? Could be anyone, Raymond said. A board member, a neighbor. Her. Latoya asked. Margie. Raymond shook his head. No, that wasn't guilt. That letter came from confidence. This was deliberate. Latoya's face tightened. We need to report it. To who? He asked. The same police that blocked my driveway. She said nothing, just looked at him, an unspoken weight between them. Sometimes, trust in the system felt like a fairy tale. Later that afternoon, Raymond's phone buzzed. A message from Terrence, a neighbor 2 streets over. FYI, people on the HOA Facebook page are trying to bring back the patrol company. Some of them are saying you overreacted. Raymond called him immediately. You believe that? No, Terrence replied. But I know how some folks think. If they haven't seen a problem themselves, They act like it doesn't exist. What do they want me to do? Forget it. Be quiet. Be quiet? Grateful. Huh. Grateful. Huh. Grateful they treated me like a suspect on my own porch. I'm just giving you a heads up, Terrence said. You stirred the waters. After the call, Raymond sat in his home office, blinds cracked. Outside, the cul-de-sac was still picture-perfect fresh lawns, trimmed hedges, peace on the surface. This was supposed to be the dream. The reward for years of long nights, busted knuckles, and cold winters spent building homes for other families. He picked this neighborhood, for the schools, for the peace, for his family, but even here, he wasn't seen as someone who belonged. Later, Marissa came down the stairs and found him still in his chair. You okay, Dad? He looked up slowly. Remember when we first moved? Here, she nodded. I was in 4th grade. I painted my room purple, then made us repaint it green 3 months later. She smiled. Raymond leaned forward. I need you to understand something. Everything we've built, it wasn't just for comfort. It was to show we didn't need permission to live how we wanted. You don't have to prove that, Marissa said softly. Raymond nodded, but then pulled the folded threat from his pocket and stared at it. That night, he nearly decided to stay quiet, but just before 10, his phone rang and made that decision for him. The phone buzzed loudly on the kitchen counter. Raymond glanced at the screen. Unknown number. For some reason, he felt he should pick it up. Mr. Granger, said a breathless, slightly nervous voice. You don't know me, but I saw the video. I just wanted to say thank you. Raymond blinked, unsure. Who is this? I live on the other side of town, Friendswood, the caller said. I'm not in your neighborhood, but something similar happened to me, twice. I just never caught it on video. Watching you stay so calm, it meant something to me. So, thanks. Then the line went dead. The call had lasted less than 30 seconds, but the weight of it lingered. Raymond stood still, phone in hand. Latoya, in her robe, stepped into the hallway. Everything okay? He nodded slowly. Yeah, just caught me off guard, but that was only the beginning. Over the next 3 days, the video exploded, over 1.3 million views on different platforms. A local news reporter from KPRC2 came to interview him in his living room. Raymond remained composed, speaking honestly about the incident, without anger or exaggeration. He didn't want to be a symbol, he just wanted to be heard. But not everyone wanted to listen. Flyers began appearing in neighbors' mailboxes. Anonymous, printed on cheap paper, accusing Raymond of stirring up trouble and harming the neighborhood's image. One even claimed he had faked the whole encounter for attention. Terrence sent him a photo of one. This is some real coward stuff, the text read, not even brave enough to sign their name. Raymond tried not to let it bother him, but then, Latoya got a call from her hospital's HR office. A patient's family recognized her from the internet. The hospital just wanted to review a few policies. That was it for Raymond. I was respectful. I was calm, he said, pacing their living room. And somehow, I'm still the problem. People don't want truth, Latoya replied. They want peace, the kind that keeps everyone quiet. Raymond stopped pacing. I think I need to go to that HOA meeting. Latoya raised an eyebrow. You sure? I'm not going to yell, he said. I'm just going to sit there and make them look me in the eye. That Sunday, he wore pressed slacks and a collared shirt, not to impress anyone, just to avoid giving them something to deflect with. The meeting was held in a small recreation room. About 25 neighbors sat on folding chairs. Some looked up as he walked in, others did in single quotes. Greg Stanford, the HOA president, stood at the front behind a plastic table. His voice faltered slightly when he noticed Raymond. After the usual topics, lawn care, pool hours, minor repairs, Greg cleared his throat. I think we should talk about the recent attention the neighborhood's gotten. Raymond raised his hand. Greg nodded. I'm not here to accuse anyone, Raymond began. I'm here because I care about this neighborhood. That's why I bought a house here. That's where I'm raising my daughter. He paused. But what happened at my gate wasn't just annoying. It was loud. It told me that wearing work boots and a flannel shirt made me look like I didn't belong. A woman near the front shifted in her chair. A man in the back who hadn't looked up all meeting finally met his eyes. I'm not asking for pity, Raymond said. I'm asking for honesty about how we see each other. Because when the people meant to protect you turn on you, just from a glance, that's not just perception, that's danger. The room went silent. Someone cleared their throat. Thank you, Mr. Granger, Greg said, his smile forced. We'll take your comments into consideration. As the meeting wrapped, a few neighbors approached Raymond. Some shook his hand, some didn't meet his gaze. One man, a high school teacher named Brian Minter, lingered. You ever think about talking to students? He asked. Might be something worth sharing. Raymond hadn't, but he told him he'd think about it. He never got the chance. Because someone from his past had plans of their own. It was a humid Wednesday evening when Raymond walked into the clubhouse again. This time, not for a board meeting. The HOA, under pressure from both residents and media, had scheduled a public town hall. Latoya pushed him to go. You've come this far, she told him. Say what needs to be said. Marissa stayed home, but texted right before he walked in. Don't let them talk over you, Dad. The room was packed. Chairs lined every inch, and people still stood along the walls. A few local news cameras were set up discreetly near the exits. Greg opened with a generic statement about community dialogue and moving forward. Raymond listened, arms folded, face calm. When Greg asked if anyone wanted to speak, Raymond stood immediately. "I've already spoken once," he began, but clearly not everyone heard it. He stepped to the mic. "I was stopped in front of my own house. Police were called by someone who lives here, that's a fact. But what I didn't say last time, what I haven't told anyone yet," he gripped the podium. "This wasn't the first time. 5 years ago, I was supervising a site out in Pasadena, left to get lunch, came back to deputies waiting by my truck, said I looked suspicious. I showed them ID, contracts, permits, they still searched my truck, ran my name." He paused and looked around. "I told myself it was a misunderstanding. But it keeps happening, and when it happens, it sticks with you. It doesn't fade." There were murmurs now. A few people nodded. Others stiffened. "I'm not asking for sympathy," he said. "I'm asking for awareness. Assumptions hurt, and when they're wrong, the damage doesn't go away. If we really want to move forward, we have to stop pretending this kind of thing doesn't happen. It does." He stepped back from the mic. A few people clapped slowly at first, then with more conviction. Not everyone, but enough. Then, a hand went up. "I'd like to say something," a voice called out. A man in his 50s stood, faded work boots, gray shirt, balding, familiar. Somehow. He walked straight to the front without touching the mic. "Name's Rick Holloman," he said. "Used to be a foreman at Meyer and Sloan. Years back, we worked one site together in Angleton, maybe 17 years ago." He turned toward Raymond. "You were just getting started. I didn't let you use the main trailer. Made your crew eat outside. In the heat. I never said why." He faced the crowd now. "I told myself it was policy. Separate crews. But the truth is, I didn't want you in the room. Didn't want to explain why we had a black contractor at the table." Gasps. Some people looked down. "I'm not proud of it," Rick said. "But hearing you tonight made me think about a lot of things. I should have treated you like the professional you were. I'm sorry, man." Raymond stared at him. Just nodded. That moment hit deeper than any speech. Rick walked back to his seat quietly. The room, once tense, now held something heavier, something honest. Just as Raymond pulled out of the clubhouse parking lot, a message from LaToya buzzed on his phone, a reminder that this fight wasn't just public anymore. Now, it had crept into their home. "Call me when you can. Something happened at school." His stomach sank. No time to text. He tapped her name and hit call. She answered instantly. "It's Marissa," LaToya said, her voice tight. "Someone put a note in her locker." Raymond felt his throat tighten. "What kind of note?" "Nothing graphic, but it was nasty," LaToya said. "Your daddy's just another loudmouth playing victim." Then it ended with a threat. "Tell him to watch where he parks next time." The line went quiet, not because there was nothing left to say, but because they both understood what this meant. It had gone beyond Raymond now. They were targeting his daughter. "Is she okay?" he asked. "She held it together at school, but lost it when she got home." Raymond pulled onto the shoulder, rested his forehead on the steering wheel. His fists were clenched so tight, they hurt. "I'm coming home now," he said. When he stepped through the front door, Marissa was curled up on the couch. Her eyes were red, but she sat up quickly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want to make things worse." "You didn't do anything wrong," he said softly, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. She leaned into him, still trembling. "I don't want to move," she said through a sniffle, "but I don't feel safe here anymore." Raymond swallowed hard. He'd heard those exact words as a kid, from a cousin, after someone burned a cross on their front lawn. Back then, he didn't understand how a street could make someone feel unsafe. Now, he knew. He sat with her until she fell asleep. Later that night, standing alone in the garage surrounded by unfinished tools and the scent of motor oil, Raymond felt something deeper than anger, fatigue. He remembered his early days in construction, driving an old truck with no AC and a window that wouldn't roll down. Sometimes he couldn't afford gas for multiple jobs, so he'd park in between and run the rest of the way. No one noticed him then, no one questioned him either. Now, he had a house, a business, a name, and suddenly everyone had an opinion. He remembered a time in early 2000s Humble, Texas, working for a developer who made him use the back road to enter the site every day. Same work, same sweat, just less welcome. He had kept quiet then, but not anymore. The next morning, he emailed a local news station and asked for another interview. This time, not from his living room. He wanted the city to see him where he worked, in front of his crew, standing on ground he'd earned. By week's end, the reporter met him at a fresh job site. Behind him stood 4 of his guys, Latino, black, white, all in hard hats and boots. "I've worked in this city over 30 years, Raymond said, staring into the camera. "Framed homes, laid foundations, repaired roofs in 100-degree heat. I built my life from the ground up, and somehow, it still feels like it's not enough." The video aired that night. It didn't explode online, but it resonated. A local pastor called, asking if Raymond would speak at a youth leadership event. Marissa's school counselor reached out to discuss better policies for student safety. It wasn't a wave, but it was a ripple, and that was something. Then came a call he didn't expect from Captain Ron Aldrich of the League City PD. Raymond hesitated before answering. "We'd like to speak with you," the captain said. "In person, about the officers involved." "Is this an apology?" Raymond asked. "Or a way to sweep it under the rug?" "Neither," Aldrich said. "Just a chance to talk face to face." They met the next day at a coffee shop halfway between Raymond's job site and the station. Neutral ground. Raymond wore his usual work gear. Aldrich showed up in khakis and rolled-up sleeves, trying to look casual. Raymond wasn't fooled. "I've reviewed the footage multiple times." Aldrich began. "What happened that night didn't follow department protocol. There were clear signs of bias and mishandling." "So, you're admitting they messed up?" Raymond asked. "Yes," Aldrich replied. "We've reassigned them temporarily while the internal review continues." "Still getting paid though, right?" Raymond said dryly. Aldrich didn't deny it. Raymond leaned in. "If my daughter hadn't recorded it, if that video didn't exist, you'd all treat me like I made it up." "I understand how that feels," Aldrich said quietly. "No," Raymond snapped. "You understand how it looks after it's been exposed." They sat in silence. "This city's changing fast," Aldrich said. "Some of our officers weren't trained to see that as a good thing." "I'm not making excuses. We've got work to do." Raymond studied him. "Then start with real consequences, because desk duty doesn't fix anything." Aldrich nodded. "Understood." They shook hands. But Raymond left the cafe uneasy. It felt more like damage control than justice. That night Latoya froze while scrolling her tablet. "Ray," she said, turning the screen toward him. There he was, Sergeant Rourke, smiling on a neighborhood page titled, "We Back the Badge." He stood with residents, holding signs praising law enforcement. "He's a guest speaker now," Raymond muttered. "They didn't sideline him," Latoya said. "They rebranded him." Raymond stood up. "I'm not letting this slide." He called a lawyer not to sue, but to learn his options. If the system wouldn't hold the officers accountable, maybe the public would. He also contacted a community advocacy group in Baytown, led by a woman named Delora Vines. She was sharp, organized, and ready. They met at a civic center 2 days later. Delora came prepared: printouts, stats, a tablet full of documentation. "If you're serious," she said, "we need strategy. City council, letters, public complaints, oversight meetings, pressure in every room they step into." Raymond nodded. "I've never done anything like this." "You didn't need to," she replied, "but they dragged you into it." He flipped through her packet. Names, timelines, case files. He wasn't after revenge. He wanted change. For his daughter, for the young guys working under him, for everyone who didn't have a voice. But the more attention he got, the more resistance he felt. Then came a call from a name he hadn't seen in years, Alfred Boone. They'd worked together once, two contractors trying to break into a world that didn't want them. Alfred had been sharp streetwise and knew how to play the long game. "Ray," he said, skipping pleasantries, "been watching. I respect what you're doing. Thanks. But I gotta ask, how far are you planning to take this?" Raymond paused. "Far enough that the next time someone blocks a gate, they remember my name." There was silence on the line. "I get it," Alfred said finally. "Just be careful. You're rattling folks who don't like being called out. This city forgets quick, but it holds a grudge a long time." Raymond stayed quiet. "Just don't burn every bridge," Alfred added. "Not all of them deserve to stand, but some you might still need." The call ended, but the warning lingered. Was it a warning, a favor, or just fear dressed up as wisdom? Raymond couldn't tell. All he knew was that the road ahead wasn't getting any smoother. That evening, Latoya came down the stairs, her phone clenched in her hand. "Ray," she said, quietly, "you need to see this." It was another post, this time from a different neighborhood group. Private, but not private enough. A thread of comments under a grainy picture of their house. "He's always been distant. Funny how this only became an issue once he wanted attention. I don't feel safe sharing my opinion anymore." And then one that made Raymond's stomach knot. "People like him ruin neighborhoods." He read every comment, scrolled to the top, then read them again. He recognized some of the names: people who smiled at him at the store, nodded at meetings, waved from across the street, people who now said everything they wouldn't dare say to his face. Latoya's voice softened. "Maybe we should talk about leaving." Raymond looked at her, confused. "Leave the house?" She nodded slowly. "Just for a little while. See your sister in Waco. Let things settle." He paused, jaw tight. "They don't get to run us out of our own home." "I'm not talking about giving up," she said. "I'm talking about keeping our daughter safe." Raymond looked away. "I understand that, but if we vanish now, they win. The people who left that note. The ones who see me as a problem just for existing." Latoya's eyes filled with worry. "I just don't want this to eat you alive." That night, sleep never came. Around 2 a.m., Raymond found himself back in the garage, sitting beside the unfinished cedar planter box. The raw wood felt too familiar: open, exposed, incomplete, just like how he felt. His phone buzzed. A message from Dolores Vians. "FYI, found a complaint against Officer Delaney. 2 years ago. Almost identical case. Man pulled over in front of his home. No charges, no follow-up. Sending the documents, Raymond stared at the screen. It wasn't just him. He opened the file. Same pattern. Different man. Same assumptions. No accountability. He sent it straight to his lawyer. Then saved it twice. By sunrise, he'd made his decision. With Dolores' help, he organized a press briefing. No flashy production, just a single microphone outside City Hall. He wasn't going to let this get buried. Not again. LaToya stood beside him, holding his hand. Marissa watched from behind, flanked by two friends. Even Raymond's crew from the job site showed up still in work clothes, dust-covered, but solid in their support. Raymond didn't shout, didn't accuse. He spoke with calm, steady resolve. This isn't just about me. It's about what keeps happening. It's about the systems that punish quietly and protect loudly, and it's about what changes when silence ends. Some clapped, others just listened, but this time, they heard him. 2 weeks later, Raymond stood on stage at a local high school auditorium. The banner behind him read, "Voices of Leadership, Building Integrity from the Ground Up." He wasn't used to this kind of crowd. No blueprints, no construction crews, just rows of young people looking for truth. He took a breath, adjusted the mic. "When I was your age, I thought hard work was enough. That if I kept my head down and worked twice as hard, I'd earn respect." The students listened, but respect doesn't always follow effort, especially when people make up their minds before you even speak. He paused. "I built my home with my hands, my business with discipline, but I still got stopped at my own gate. Still had to prove I belonged." A hand went up. A tall student, notebook open on his lap. "Do you think calling it out made things worse?" Raymond didn't blink. Maybe, but not speaking up would have made it worse for the next person. He turned toward the back, where Marissa and LaToya sat. He smiled. "I didn't speak out to be a hero. I spoke out because my daughter deserves better. If I let people treat me like a stranger in my own driveway, what message does that send her?" There was silence. Then applause, genuine and growing. Afterward, a few students approached. One girl with braces said her brother went through the same thing in Sugarland. Another boy said his mom was afraid to speak up at work, but he was going to show her this. It didn't go viral, but it was real, and that was enough. Outside, Raymond stood by his truck as LaToya handed Marissa a water bottle. The sun dipped low, casting warm light across the pavement. "You did good," LaToya said. "I was nervous," he admitted. "Teenagers are tougher than contractors." She laughed, then turned serious. "You know this isn't over, right?" "I know," he said, "but I'm not in it alone." That night he finished the planter box, lined it with fresh soil, planted lavender and sage, set it on the porch. The next morning, neighbors passed by. Some waved, one even complimented the flowers. Raymond waved back, not out of habit, but with purpose, because if they were going to see him, they'd see all of him. The builder, the father, the man who stayed. 3 months later, Officer Rourke resigned quietly. Delaney was moved to desk duty, pending new oversight rules. No headlines, no drama, just small, real shifts. The patrol firm wasn't hired back. The HOA elections were coming up, and Raymond's name was already circulating for a board seat. He hadn't said yes yet, but he was thinking about it, because sometimes, the only way to fix a broken gate is to hold the key yourself. Let this be a reminder. Where you live should never dictate how you're treated. What you wear should never change how you're seen. And silence might feel safe, but it never makes things right. If this story moved you, share it, like it, subscribe. We're telling stories that speak up one voice at a time.